Basically, I'm going to do here more Zoom. So hopefully it's going to work, man. I'm trying to broadcast to all places, also Java channels. And
yeah, how many things have you opened?
yeah, I have too many things open crazy. Right now. Yes. Okay, that should be good. All right, so okay, so let me get here. So all right, so it's about to start. That's the right time to start. So guys, look, this is how we're gonna do it, right? Me and Garrett are gonna have a conversation here. Can you guys hear the noise from the back? Yes, you can.
Yes.
All right, so
but we can hear you too clearly.
Yeah, please be polite, Bruno. Don't do anything to people. Maximilian, thank you for following me on Twitter.
Oh,
I only have 290.
Great tweets. Oh no, I like your tweets, man.
So here
it's my pleasure.
Wait, guys, can you hear us? So here, what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a conversation here. You guys are gonna be here in the room with us, so feel free to ask questions, participate in the conversation. There's gonna be people that are actually gonna be watching this live. So I'm gonna try to follow any questions on YouTube channels, so we can have a conversation with the rest of the people, right? But you guys are gonna be here, and so let's just start. Is that good?
Great.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so let me see here. Looks like it's already live, I guess. Let me see if it's already live. Maybe it's already live. It was not supposed to be live, but
Oh man, this is crazy. How can you work like that?
Right now,
guys, is it okay if I do a screenshot?
Yeah, it's okay to do a screenshot. So let me just make sure that we are all set here, and then we can do a screenshot.
This is how many? 20 or 30 apps
yeah, it's just
open at the same time? Oh man.
It's just streaming, Bruno. It's working.
Are you seeing a SouJava?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so it's ready streaming. So we're okay.
Finally.
All right. So how about we get started then? All right. So hi everyone. It's very good to be here with you. So this week it happened here in Florianópolis, the south of Brazil. It happened this great event called Developers Conference, TDC Innovation, right? And Garrett came all the way from Germany, to participate here. And today was a nice Saturday, and we were walking around, and we had a good Uruguayan meat lunch, right? And we were walking around the beach, and we discussed about all kinds of cool stuff, right? We discussed about open source and Garrett's career, and even diabetes, right? So, I mean, we were discussing about all kinds of things. And so we said, come on, how about we open this conversation up for everyone else, and then we can have, we can get questions, and we can have discussions. So let me quickly introduce my friend and guest here. So Garrett Grunwald, is that how I say Grunwald?
Grunwald.
Grunwald. Oh, man. All right. All right. So Garrett, Garrett is a developer evangelist, a developer advocate for Azul. The company that does, very, very fast and high performance, high scalability Java VMs. And he's also a Java champion, quite some time. He's a Java's group leader. He is a open source developer for a lot of tools and a lot of libraries. Anything else I can say about you?
I think that's it. That's me.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a very awesome guy, and feel free to ask any question that you guys have. But Garrett, I'm going to start with the discussion that we were having earlier. That you're talking about how hard it was for you to just kind of be like a 9-to-5 developer, and you want to do more stuff and everything, and so you went on to do to participate on open source and do like that. So can you tell us a little bit about why that was important for you and what kind of things that you did?
Yeah, so in principle, I was not even a developer in the beginning. So I studied physics just because I was curious of how things work, and started as a so-called application scientist working for nanotechnology and semiconductor industry for 10 years, traveling around the world, visiting all the big nanofabrication fabs and Intel and TSMC and all that. So, and at that time I was always coding. That was just a hobby of mine. But at one point I felt like I would really like to do that all the time. So I love coding. This is, I don't know. It's since now 40 years I do that, and I really love it. And it was always my dream to work with computers. So because in school I wasn't that good, so I decided to go doing physics instead, because I heard studying IT is so hard. So I said, no, maybe better I do physics, not so hard. That's what I thought. Okay.
Right.
And then, but I never stopped coding. And then at one point I decided I became the manager of the software development department in that company. And that led to the fact that I was only organizing stuff, sitting in meetings, having calls with all the management people, and just take care about the people in my team. And so what I really was missing was coding.
Right.
So I left the company after 10 years and started as a plain software developer. Right. So that was the start of it, let's say. And at that point, I had not really any idea where this would lead to. So it was never be the plan to be one day in Brazil speaking at a conference. I never thought about that. So and that maybe that was a good idea to not think about it. So I just started coding for money on a, like you said, 8 to 5 job. And that was okay. And then I figured out that I really liked coding graphical stuff like UI components and all these kind of things. I really love that. And I did that I thought I had to dig into this deeper. And once I started with that, I had the feeling I need to know more people that have the same passion, that share the same passion for Java and for the stuff that I'm doing.
Right.
Which was hard. So it was not so easy to find people. So what I did was I did really put something in the newspaper and ask for, is someone interested in Java in my area? Nobody answered that, of course. So I thought, okay, there must be another way. So then I founded the Java user group in the city where I'm living. And that was the main start of all of it, because suddenly we did a bi-weekly meeting, and the first year was only three people. So me and 2 other guys, and we met every 2 weeks, same day, same time. And then over time, more and more people came, and then we discussed, maybe we should not just only meet, but maybe also have sessions. So we thought, okay, but this is hard when you start with the user group. You would like to have speakers, right? People that know everything, come to your user group, talk about stuff, and that was not easy, right? So because we didn't know them, we just know them from magazines and from conferences. All the speakers, wow. So what we did instead, we just started talking ourselves in our own user group. So that's how we started. So that means the other guy that was with me from the beginning, he just said, okay, I can give a talk about the topic he was interested in. So he talked about that, and we had maybe 10 people attending that first session. And it was a complete success. We had good discussions after that. We had lots of fun, and it was not really this stressy feeling that some people have speaking in front of others, because we know each other. That was really convenient. So and then the next session was I was doing that about some swing stuff in Java, and then people said, "Wow, this is good stuff. You should talk to in other user groups." So, and because if you start a user group, there's this community thing, right? We have a mailing list, and suddenly you know people from other cities. So I just posted. I think I wrote to some drug leaders in close by, and then asked them if they're interested in me speaking there. And interestingly, they knew me already because I started blogging about the stuff that I'm doing, and then they said, yeah, sure, you can just come here and give a session. So I did that. And that was directly the first one, and another user group was directly around 75 people sitting there. And then I was a little bit nervous when I saw them. Like, oh, they are all just here because of me. But I just talked about the stuff that I really like. And I think this is maybe the key of the whole speaking thing, for me at least, is I really love to talk about the stuff that I'm doing. So, and I can't really talk about stuff that I'm not doing. So in some companies, you have to talk about stuff your manager just approaches you. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but I worked for Oracle as a Java evangelist some time ago. And we had this situation that someone approached me and said, can you give the session from some other guy at that conference? I said, oh, I can't. Why? Here are the slides. You can just go there and talk about it. But I can't. So I need to, it has to be my stuff, right? So even today I do the same. So we have Simon Ritter is my colleague. Maybe some people of you know him. And so he was my manager at Oracle too. So maybe this is the reason why I'm working now for Azul, I don't know. But we do the same session about the same topic, but he has different slides than I have, because I just need to dig into that and really need to feel it and code it, and then I can talk about it. And I really like that. And I think this is over time that's how it started. And then I did more and more of that stuff. And it was also driven by other people, like people like Andres Almire, for example. He told me just, oh man, this is good stuff. Just publish it somewhere, write an article, create a library, just put it on the web, make it available as a library and open source. So I did that, and to be honest, in the beginning, when he told me just create a library, I was like, okay, yeah, I will do that. And then I had to look up how to create a library because I never did that before. I had no idea. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. So it was never planned. It was really never my plan to become a developer advocate or traveling around the world, speaking at conferences, meeting all these great people like you and others, right? It's just, it just came to me, and only because I did what I like. This is my advice for everyone who's willing to do that. It's not really, don't look for stuff that you can talk about, but talk about the stuff that you are passionate about. This is the main thing. And if you do that, and it doesn't matter what it is, so it doesn't have to be the latest and hottest shit that everybody is doing right now, because sometimes it's especially the stuff that nobody knows, or maybe this is not the latest and greatest. But you know, if you go to a conference, and usually people talk about the newest stuff that is available, of course. But if you go to the industry, then you will figure out that most of the people don't use the latest stuff. They use older stuff. So that means it's totally fine to talk about stuff that is not the latest and greatest, because this is usually the stuff that is actually used in the companies. And if you solve the problem, then maybe there are a lot of other people that have the same problem, and they are really keen on knowing how you solved it. So if you have an idea and you would like to talk about it, just go for it. So that's worked for me, and it's not always great. Sometimes you don't get sessions, sometimes you get some. So but I'm not a full-time speaker, so I'm also a developer still. So and enjoy that a lot, the mixture of both of it.
Okay, so you know, you mentioned something that's, I think, is very that a lot of people are very afraid of, right? So kind of finding a topic to talk about, and you know, being people do think that, oh, I need to be the best person in that thing or in that area to be able to talk about. And sometimes when you try to talk about a topic, there are people that are better. Like, for example, you wrote an API, right? And so if I submit to talk about your API to the same event that you submit to talk about your API, right? Then the chance that you're gonna be picked and not me, of course, right? But do you have any suggestions on how we can choose topics or decide on what to do that would differentiate things a little bit?
Yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, like I said, so I'm when I think about, but this is, I can just tell you how I do it. So first of all, I don't give a shit. Sorry for the words, but I don't give a shit what others say, right? So I just listen to my heart. So if I have something I'm really thrilled about, so I think, oh, this is so amazing, then I usually dig into the problem and create some demo code and try it out, and then I got it probably under the shower. I get an idea for, well, this would be a cool idea to talk about, and most of the time it's really just the title of the session that come to my mind, like, that's cool. And then when I got the title, then I just think through it, and it takes forever. So some people can create sessions in a week. For me, it's months. So really, and I have this idea in my head, and I think about it, and then discuss with people, and I see a problem, and oh, okay, and I try to incorporate that into the slides, and creating slides for me takes really long time. So if I create a session, it's not something I do from one day on to another. So it's really, like I said, 4 weeks, this is normal. And then it's not that I create it every day, but one day I create a slide, then 2 days later, the next one. And every time I have an idea, I just add it. And the topic is really, it's really the stuff that I'm really thrilled about at that moment. So it could be whatever it is. And I can't guarantee that it's a good session. It's just stuff that I'm interested in. So if for example, a couple of years ago, I did IoT stuff. I was totally thrilled by the whole IoT idea because I studied physics and specialized in microelectronics. So the whole IoT idea was just great. And at that time, I did a lot of talks about Java on IoT devices and messaging between IoT devices and all these things. But today I don't do that anymore. Now I'm into like backend stuff, and 10 years I was just doing front end stuff in Java. I'm driven by the stuff that I'm at the moment interested in, and I don't really plan that. So it's not really that I'm looking for stuff I would like to talk about. And I think this is also the wrong approach. So I was approached by people, they asked me, so what is the good topic to create a session? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know a good topic. So there is not the topic you should talk about. It's just, and you mentioned that. So I'm, only because I talk about something doesn't mean I'm the god of that topic, right? This is just my point of view. And it could be that there are people in the audience, probably they know more about this stuff than I do. So, and I really enjoy having conversation after the session, right? If people then come to you and tell, yeah, you are right, but I tried it in a different way. And then suddenly you see it from another point of view, and that helps you again to better understand it, right? So, and it's like a give and take, the whole thing. And just because we are speakers at conferences doesn't mean we know everything. So by far not. So it's just we know some points that we looked into and we know it from our point of view, but doesn't mean we know everything. Right? So most of the times we don't know everything. Sometimes we maybe know.
That's right. Yeah. So let me just kind of address you guys there. So if you have any questions, right, feel free. If you're here with us on Zoom, feel free to just ask the question. I see lots of people here. So hey, Amanda, hey, Bruno, hey, Cassio, Max, Nikita, Rodrigo, feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions in the chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're monitoring the YouTube channels for SouJava and my YouTube channel. So if you ask questions there, we can also do. So Max, if you see any questions on the SouJava channel, please relay it to us here. And I'm looking at my channel. So come on, ask all your questions. As I said, we're here with Garrett, and Garrett is a development advocate, a Java champion, open source developers. So anything you want to ask, that's an open conversation here. So you guys have any questions that you want to discuss? Hey, hello, Amanda.
I would like to make one question, Bruno, to
Right.
Garrett.
Mhm.
He was saying that at the beginning, he started to look for Java groups in his town. Okay, so nowadays we are like 3 years now in this pandemic thing, and things are becoming better, but I saw that those Java groups, they disappeared during the pandemic, and I would like to, since I'm moving to Portugal, and in the end of the month, I'll be in Portugal. I live here in Brazil right now, but in the end of the month, I'll be in Portugal. And I will try to look for those groups, I would like to know if you guys know how these things are going on right now, those Java groups in Europe, or if people are meeting or they are not, if the groups still exist. And what do you think about this?
Yeah, that's a good point. And because I also lead a Java user group, and you are right, we didn't do any meeting for the last 2 years and still don't do meetings yet. And the problem is not that we don't want to, the problem is to find a room. That's a sponsor, right? So this is the main problem. And I'm planning to do a Java user group too in the US in October. And I contacted 40 user groups, and just 10 of them came back to me with interest. And from this 10, I think 7 had problems to find a sponsor for the rooms. And so they would like to meet. It's a little bit different in the US. So we had one sponsor, which was a company in the city I'm living in, and they sponsored the room and food and stuff like that. And for them, it would be okay to meet. So in our situation, we are planning to start in-person meetings after the summer vacation, which is usually around September. We will start again with in-person events. In the US, it's like this. A lot of user groups, they change the location on every meeting. So for every meeting, they ask a company as a sponsor because they have lots of companies there. And they have the problem that the companies won't let the people into their offices because of they are curious because of COVID. And so this is in the US. In Europe, I know that in Germany we have already in-person events. In Portugal, depends on where you are, but there is what is his name? Alberto? Is it Alberto? The guy with the long hair?
Roberto, yes.
Roberto, yes. He runs JNation conference. And
they did run the JNation conference, right?
It's next week. It's next Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm right. And it's in person. So I'm pretty sure if they run a conference in Portugal, they will run the Java user group meetings. So, but we can figure that out. If you like, just ping me, and I can ping Roberto and ask him. He's the contact in Portugal. So, and this is the good thing, right? We have this community. I mean, these people, and you can just ask them, and these people know in their country who to contact or what is going on. So you should just use us, right, as your connection to get the information or get you in touch with the right people. Shouldn't be a problem.
Right. Yeah. So basically, there is a community for Java groups, but also there's a lot of user groups that are doing things online too, right? So, so for example, maybe JNation is going to be transmitted. I don't know. It's in person, but they might be transmitted. We just did the developers conference here in Florianopolis that it was transmitted and available online, right? So people could participate, outside of the city, for example. So there's a lot of these groups. Actually, Max is here, and he was running a lot of online activities for SouJava, for example, right? And so I think that a lot of user groups did continue by doing online activities, and right now we're seeing the groups to start to reform, rebuild, restart their activities. But yes, man, look, we are in the pandemic right now, right? So it's not necessarily things are going to be able to do in person. but you've been you've been an evangelist on those 2 years of the pandemic, right? So you were evangelist before, you were evangelist. So how are you able to do things during that time?
To be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't do any. I did some online conferences, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. Still, I mean, every conference try to do the best, and some do better, and most of them do worse. It's just something is missing. It's exactly this kind of conversations that we have right now. So just in person, you can't replace that with an online conference. But if you do it right, online it can work, but to me it's really like watching YouTube videos and just talking to the screen, and you don't have any interaction with the people, because that's what it usually is, right? So everybody's shut down and you just talk, and you don't see anything, and you have a chat window going on, but you can't really talk and chat at the same time. So the whole thing is like it works kind of, but it's nothing that really goes forever. So for me, it doesn't work. And to be honest, I don't really participate in online conferences at the moment. So if I'm asked to speak at online, I say, no, I don't, because I just don't like it. It's really not the same. But that doesn't mean that there is no community. The community is still there. Just because they don't meet in person doesn't mean the people are not there. So it might be harder to find the contacts if you are not having them already, but that should be not a blocking point. So I mean, us, we know enough people to get you in touch with them, but even if not, it shouldn't be so hard to find the right people, because most of them are still willing to do that. So it's not like because they don't do meetings doesn't mean they are not there anymore.
Right. Well, so I'm very glad that you did come.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks, Bruno. So I'm very glad that you did come here, right? And you're here in person.
I love the Brazil.
Yes, awesome. That's great. So come on, guys. Who else has any questions for?
Hey, Bruno. Looks like Marco Ferreira did a question on a SouJava YouTube channel.
Okay. So what's the question?
Yeah, he say hi to Gary, and he said that he was at your talk in TDC, but he couldn't follow it all because looks like he did a talk as well, according to his question. Okay, but he asking if you have some place that we can know more about the crack project. I think that you talk about a little bit in your talk. Am I right? So if you can send us information, how can I find out some information about this project? I can, probably he will saw.
So it's I'm not sure if you will TDC provide the slides somewhere.
Yes, we will. Right. So all the slides. So two things, right? So all the presentation on TDC are going to be available for anyone that registered for the event is going to be able to access the presentations later. And also all these slides are going to be put on the websites, open and public for everyone.
Okay, and I put in the slides, I put all the links to the GitHub repositories, and I don't know them by heart. So I think it's, if you search for GitHub/crack, there's a crack is CRAC. Okay. And it's not the drug. So so I changed the title of the slides to "What the Crack," because Simon does the same session and his title is Java on Crack. And I thought, this sounds like it's a good title, but yeah. So yes, exactly, crack GitHub. Yeah, there it is. So
okay, so I'm gonna put here. I'm gonna put here on the chat.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. So if you can copy that, Max, that would be good.
Sure. I will copy and send in the chat.
Yeah. So there you will find most of the information, but you could also ping me directly if you have questions. So, and the best thing to do is to ping me on Twitter, because I ran away from all the social media stuff, I think 1.5 years ago. So I don't do any Facebook, Instagram or whatever. So I just use Twitter. That's the only thing I'm staying with. and it's Han Solo _. That's my Twitter handle. And you can just ping me there. So this is no problem. If you have questions or if you need links or something, then and you ask me on Twitter, I will just send it to you. That's no problem at all.
Okay, that's cool. So let me just say hello, quick hello here to Tony. So Tony's here with us. So Tony's, and there's a question from Rodrigo, and Rodrigo says, you know, until how old, right, should you still be a software developer?
How old?
Yeah.
Oh, I think there is no age. I saw people. Oh, there was this one guy. I don't know if you met him. Java 1 Brazil in Sao Paulo. A very young guy, and he's always from Oracle. Oracle just takes care about him.
Oh yeah, yes, Pedro Carrizo.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. He's called the Java boy, right? So yeah.
See,
His birthday was in my house, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So he was really young at that point, and I think if it's your passion, there is no age, right? So I mean, I'm in the meantime. Okay, so one thing, I really believe that all the young generations miss something, because when I was young, I'm now 52, and I do programming for 40 years. And when I started coding, computers have been huge and you can't afford it. And then there have been this home computer stuff that was even before the Commodore C64. And we coded stuff and we soldered computers by our hands. And this is really something that helps me even today. So all this knowing how computers work. And if I see sometimes today, if I see younger people, they are so used to have machines that are so powerful and have memories, no problem. And that leads to bad code.
Right.
Because people just, memory, I don't care, right? So they just use it. So I worked on machines where you have 16 kilobytes, and then you really have to think about how to do that in machine code. And this is something I think it's beneficial, but that doesn't really relate to age. This is just something that I share with all the people in my age. That we always think the same. Yeah, it's something that if you care about memory and performance from another point of view, because we knew it from the former days. These days, I mean, my mobile phone is like a supercomputer compared to the stuff that I had at that time.
That's right.
And yeah.
And actually, I think that every time there is some kind of constraint, right? Then you have to be more creative and more. So actually, that's an interesting way for you to get better at software development, right? So when you're practicing something, you can always constrain, right? You can say, oh, I have to solve that problem. What would I do if I had 10 minutes to solve the problem? What would I do if I have, if I have only, only this thing to solve the problem? So it's a good way for you to think and improve, right, your skills to find, even if it's fake constraint, right? It's arbitrary constraint that you put yourself just to force you to be better. That's what, for example, code katas do, right? They constrain the problem, so you have to be more creative to do these things.
And then the very practical way of doing that is what I recommend to people. I think most of you know Raspberry Pi. Take a Raspberry Pi and run your code on that device.
Right.
And you will see the impact of bad code. Because if it's slow, and the Raspberry Pi is quite powerful, right? But you really see the differences when you in memory consumption and performance, because this machine is not the same as a MacBook or another laptop. And it's easier to see improvements in good code if you use a machine that is not so powerful. And you can improve your own code by just using a less powerful machine. But the other thing is, I think in the former days, we had a lot of people that have been more programmers, but I see software development more as engineering. So it's solving problems. This is for me, and this is the approach that I take to code is I try to solve the problem in an engineering way. That means the first approach is most of the times not the very efficient one, right? It works. Then I understand the problem, I solved it, and then I start improving the solution. and make it better. So this is usually what I do. And this is, it's more engineering. It's you don't do the best code at the first approach. Most of the times you don't. So and this is not really something that comes with age, but it's experience that you collect over time, because you just figure out that this is the way it works best. Understand the problem, fix it, and then think again and try to make it better. So this is usually what I do. And this would also be my advice for in solving problems. It's, if you need a solution, then take the first one you get, and then you see if it works. If it's good enough, then leave it like that. You don't have to write the perfect code every time. If you have a problem with the code, then you can fix it, right? So it's because some people also try to create the most beautiful, fastest code ever, and takes forever. But in industry, you can't do that. If you have constraints by the customers, they say, we have deadline next week. You can't really write the most beautiful code, because especially if you are in projects that have already code in there. You have to fit your code into the existing code base. And that means sometimes you can't write the code in the best way. You have to just make it work in that environment. So it's really thinking, finding this a solution and fix the problem in the best possible way.
Right. I think that's one interesting thing that we have in our industry is how many people say that you have to do this, right? You know, oh, you have to do TDD, you have to do, you know, you have to do clean code, you have to do. So, but what you're talking about is that when you have to solve a problem, right? When the whole focus is solving a problem, sometimes you're going to do things different, right? So you're going to have to, you know, instead of having to, right, you're gonna think differently and try to solve the problem itself. Right?
I have a good example, because I was two weeks or last week, I think I was in Bulgaria at the conference, and after they have a so-called thank you dinner, and after the thank you dinner, I met with another guy who was also a speaker there, and he was totally into React. And we sat there, and then he tried to convince me and another guy that should really use React, and this is the way to go, and this is the right solution. And I said, you know what, I never used it, and I won't. He was like, what? But no, this is the future, you have to do it. I said, why? Why do I have to do it? I don't see a need for me to do reactive programming. So, and as long as I don't really see the need, I won't use it. And he was totally shocked that I just said that. Because he had a session about React at the conference, and he was totally convinced, which is fine. I mean, it's good, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to use that, right? Because I can write good performant code without using React. So why should I use it? And then he tried to convince me, and the other guy, and we both said, no, I don't need it. So yeah, that was interesting. And then it goes in that direction, because some people tell you have to use this or you have to use that, but no.
in the end, you have to solve the problem.
Exactly. Right. This is the main thing, solving the problem. And if you find a good way and it works, then that's the right way. So there is no perfect solution for a problem.
Cool. So Bruno said here, I had a Commodore 64, the first computer code one, I think it was 10 years old. That's awesome, Bruno. So Rodrigo says, I'm going to buy a Raspberry Pi. That's great, Rodrigo. That's awesome. Go for it, right? And so Bruno says here, I think in those cases, you just have to make clear to your customers, right, that the constraints they impose will impact directly the solution. Time to market, conflicts with maintainability. If you don't make your point to your clients, they won't know and they won't understand why you made things in one way or another. So that is a good point, right? So, you know, you are a developer and you are a speaker, right? But a lot of developers, they don't think that communication is an important skill, right? But from what Bruno is saying here, for example, you know, you have to talk to your customer, you have to explain the reasons why you're doing things, right? You have sometimes to negotiate. Isn't those all very, very important communication skills that you have to have?
To be honest, I think this is more than 50% of the whole thing of your job is communication. It's if you could be the world best programmer, if you can't tell your solution or can't explain your solution to your colleagues or to the customer, you are nothing.
So you're not the world best programmer.
No, exactly. So because this is really, and it's really a problem. I mean, it's interesting that most of the time the people that are very, very smart sometimes really have problems to communicate with others and explain their solutions or their problem solving strategy to normal, not so smart people. And I'm lucky that I'm maybe not so smart, but I really like to talk. And this is the most, or the best thing at all. And even the best thing with the whole community thing is talking to other people, sharing problems and sharing solutions. And the more you do that, you will see the better you get in speaking, because this is in principle the same. So for me, it doesn't matter if I tell it to one person or to 1,000 people. It's not, for me personally, it doesn't make a difference. But this conversation thing is really important. And I think that's maybe a lag that programmers or software developers had in the past. I think it's getting better. And the whole agile thing, it goes in that direction. You have the stand-up meetings. You have to explain to your colleagues and to your boss what you're doing, what you're planning to do. And just take your time and do that. Talk about it. Try to explain, make people understand what you're meaning. And it's very important. And the better the better your skill in talking is, I bet the more or the better you do in your job. This is just, you can sit in the corner and coding all the day. If you're lucky and fine with that, cool. But if you would like to do a career, then you need to talk to people. You need to convince others about your solution, even if this sometimes is hard. So you will face that situation where you have a customer that, I had that a couple of times. We have a project with the customer, you sit with the customer and the customer tells you, you have to do it like this. And then I told him, but this is the wrong way. And then you have this discussion, you have to explain why the customer is wrong, and this guy is paying you, right? So it's a little bit, yeah, it's not the best situation, but you need to face these situations and try to convince the people with good arguments, and you will see if the better you get at that, the easier it is for you in the job. So I'm pretty sure this is one of the skills which is very important, and it gets more and more important because you have this interaction in teams. In the past, it was you have one programmer that did the whole thing. That's very far back in the past. And then you had these small teams, but today we have companies that have huge teams work on the same problem. So you have to talk to others, right, and share the solutions and problems and all that. Also the problems, and it's not really a failure if you make a mistake. You can just learn it. Through mistakes, you get better, right? So, and this is also for speaking at conferences and stuff. If you don't try it, you can't really get better at it. So you have to try, and you will fail, which is fine, because people are not there to see the best speaker in the world, right? Everybody knows it's hard to speak in front of a crowd. So people are forgiving. So this is not really a problem.
Yeah, one thing that I see a lot, right, is that you know, people that come to a conference or they come to a presentation, they want you to succeed, right? Because they have a problem, right? So they want you to give something to help them somehow, right? Exactly. So they're not there to get you to fail, right? They're there to help you succeed. And then if you're able to get them to do the next step, you're able to get them to solve the problem, they're going to be very happy, even if you're not the best speaker in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw that a couple of times where a speaker got some kind of a blackout on the stage because he just was so nervous and then forget what he would like to say. And it's fine. Everybody was just saying there and relax. Okay, just take your time, think about it, and then start again. And then you started again, and everything was fine. And nobody's there for blaming you, right? Yeah. So and of course, sometimes you're nervous. So I remember this year when I did the first conference after 2 years, I just realized, man, I'm nervous. I wasn't nervous for years. And so suddenly you think, oh, yeah, I didn't do that for 2 years. So you really check the slides again and yeah, it just takes one conference or one session and then you are back on track. So it's a skill, and you can learn that, and it's not that hard. Just try it. I told you, right? So there was this other guy at the conference who approached me and asked me, how can I become a speaker at conferences? And what is the hot topic? I told them, so there is no hot topic. The hot topic is the stuff that you are burning for, right? So the stuff that really makes you feel good. This is the hot topic. You should talk about that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, he asked me, so to which conference should I go? Which is a good one to start? And I said, there is no good one to start. I told him, just go to your company, to your colleagues, talk in front of maybe 5 colleagues, right? Of your team, for example. These people know you, they know what you're working on. You know them, so it's easy for you to speak in front of them, and then just make a session. If it works out good, just try for a bigger crowd, a Java user group, for example. If that works out, just try to propose something for a conference. And you will fail. People will say, no, not accepted, not accepted. That's fine. That happens to me all the time. So you just propose something and you get back, no, you got not accepted. Well, I don't care. Because it's not about how many conferences did I take, right? That's not the main reason. So you just propose sessions to conferences, and if they don't accept it, it's okay, and others will accept it, right? And once you got a session accepted at a conference, you will see that it's just a little bit bigger, but that's the whole difference, and everything else is the same. And if you did the first one, and you will see you can make it everywhere. So this is not it. But again, this is also not for everyone. So not everybody is made for speaking at conferences. So, but you can at least give it a try, right?
Yeah. So Bruno says that just like coding, where you improve by practicing, communication skills will improve with practice, right? This is a warning even to me. Share content, practice those skills, and do talks, videos, stuff like this. Yes, Bruno, you got to do those things, right? You got to practice, right? Yeah. And for my mentees that are here, there's several of my mentees here. We do have the Saturday practice sessions, right, where you can come and practice with friends, right? So that's a good thing to do, right? So yeah, we have a bunch of friends that we're all trying to improve, and so we share to each other.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, how to start, right? Because you should start in a small group of people that you know. Then you feel comfortable. Because if you directly start at a conference, you might figure out that, oh man, there are hundreds of people and they're all looking at me, and and then this may not be the best way to start talking. But yeah, if you start small, and then you have to. You find your own way, right? So it's this is also something, speaking, you can't really, there is not a good advice to me, at least to me now. I can't really tell. People ask me, how do you prepare slides? I don't care. I don't know. I just do it. I found my own style. I know that I can do 100 slides in 45 minutes, and my slides are just a couple of words, not a lot. And I just skip through them, and this is my style of doing it. I saw other people, they do totally different, so which is fine. You have to find your own way, right? You can listen to others, but just don't try to copy others. That doesn't really work.
That's like software development, right?
Yeah.
Each one of us does a little bit, and the only way for you to learn how to do those things is doing it. Yeah. You do, you try, you fail, you try again, you do, you improve, you see what other people are doing, and you experiment with, similar things that they're doing and adapt to what you have, and adapt your own style, right? So
yeah, it's coding styles, right? It's the same. So I have my very own style of creating code, and I like to have things aligned in columns. So for example, if I do variable definitions in the beginning of a class, then I align them in columns. So that means that there's public, static, final, they all below each other, and then they come the variable names, and they have the equal signs all on the same column, and then the values. People, they see that, what's that? For me, it's just, I can read it better, because if I have it like this, then I can't really understand it fast enough. So I just do it like that, the formatting. And I found another guy who's, Dirk König is his name. He's also a Java champion, a professor in Switzerland at a university. And he does exactly the same. And he said, well, this is something that comes with age. And I said, oh yeah, maybe I'm too old. but I can't really, I have a hard time reading code if it's not well formatted. So I'm very picky with formatting code. So it helps me if I read my own code after a year. I know exactly how I structured it, and I know where to look for, and how when I look for variables, I just, because of this column orientated formatting, it helps me to find the stuff faster. So this is me. I mean, so everybody has its own kind of coding and styling and stuff.
Cool. I just figured out that I can turn the table.
Wow.
That's almost a professional system, right?
I'm feeling in the studio here. The people look, they line up outside. Hello.
Yeah. All right. So going on this topic, but I think that I know you mentioned going to the conference a lot and everything. You are a developer advocate, right, today? So for Azure. And how do you get started that? I mean, how did you become a developer advocate? Is that something that you said, oh, I want to be a developer advocate? Right.
That's a good story.
Yeah. You know, yeah. So how do you become a developer advocate? Well, first of all, you know, I mean, Bruno said here, I'm starting to share content with my team, right? But I still have to do talks and record videos. So first of all, tell us, what is a developer advocate? What do you do? Right. What's really your work, you know, and how you got to that?
Yeah. So I have to just explain a little bit how I became a developer advocate. So it's I worked as a developer, and I did session conferences, and I had the user group, went to user groups, writing for magazines and all that stuff. And then I was at DevOps in Belgium. And Simon Ritter, who was at that time at Sun Microsystems, no, Oracle, it was already Oracle. And he approached me and just asked me if I would like to join his team as a Java evangelist at that time. And I was like, wow, yes, I would like to do that. So I had no idea what to do. So, and then we had an interview, and I asked him, so what is my job? And he just said, just do the same thing that you do right now. Just continue doing that. That's all. So that was at that time. Now at Azure, it's a little bit different. So what we do, we try to get the community involved into the stuff that we are doing, like the crack stuff, right? So it's a project that was invented by Azure, and it's now part of the OpenJDK. It will become part of the OpenJDK. It's an OpenJDK project, but we make people aware of that, and we spread the word about the project and try to convince them that this is a good idea to do and help them using it. So this is the main idea behind it. We do stuff for the community. So we have this page, fooj.io. I don't know if, did you know that?
Fooj? Yeah, Fooj, yeah. We have several people here from the group that are participating in Fooj.
Yeah, so this is what we are doing also. Right. This is, Azure decided 2 years ago, they decided that java.net was more or less gone. And we need some kind of a replacement, so a page where we can aggregate all things Java. So then because we can't use Java, because it's a trademark of Oracle, we used Fooj. Fooj just means Friends of OpenJDK.
Right. And
so this is also things we do. So we just have this this platform where people everybody of you, if you have some topic, you can just write a blog post there. It's no problem. It's open for everyone. And we just would like to have one place where we collect all the Java content. So we are doing this stuff. I'm currently writing an API where we deliver all available JDKs that are available, not only Azure, but also the Tamarin from Adoptium or Oracle, or there's Dragonwell, Tencent Kona. I think it's around 20 different JDK distributions. And I'm just writing an API and we make that available to people. For example, if you have a CI/CD system and you would like to test your application against different JDKs, just to make sure that it works everywhere, there is not an easy way to do that at the moment. Because if you use, for example, GitHub Actions to do that, you can only choose between 4 distributions, but there's no way to use, for example, SAP Machine in that GitHub action, or Dragonwell or something like that. And with this API, you can just use all of these 20 available distributions to run your GitHub action against the distribution.
Mhm.
So that's the main idea. So we do all stuff that is to make, because if how to say that, it's not so easy. You know, we create JVMs and build on OpenJDK, and we also have our own stuff.
Mhm.
And everything that is good for Java is good for us. So we try to make Java as popular as possible and try to help the community to, if they have problems, to spread the word. We give sessions about topics within Java and stuff like that. So everything around Java is the stuff that we are doing. So
That's cool.
that's more or less what we are doing. There's not really a plan. So there's nothing like, okay, now you have to do this, now you have to do that. So it's like, okay, we have a weekly meeting, we sit together and think about, so what is cool stuff we can talk about, and then, oh, for example, the crack stuff. So I create a session about it, go to conferences, talk about stuff. And it could also be Simon does sessions about type patterns in Java, right? So this is not really related to Azure or something. It's really just about Java. This is mainly what we are doing. So we try to spread the word and help people with Java in general.
Awesome, that's cool. So maybe we should talk about, you know, how to do the plan, right? So, all right. So look again, guys. You know, I'd love to hear your questions, right? So hey Armanda, any questions? Bruno, Cassio, Max, Nikita, Rodrigo, Tony, come on, bring your questions here. Open up your microphone, whatever you want. And if you're watching us on YouTube, right? We're monitoring here my channel on YouTube, but also monitoring the SouJava channel on YouTube. So just ask questions there, and we can relay here, right? So anyone else has a question there?
Yeah, I have one. Well, I down here in Brazil, I'm a developer advocate as well in Zope Innovation. So I'm getting started in this position a few months. Actually, I'm a developer advocate about 6 months, something like that. So I'm still learning a lot. I think that I will still learning more and more and more. It's not never. So, but I have a little question about you, for you, because, well, actually today I'm trying to be more present in the communities, trying to, because I understand that the rules, our rule is to bring value to the community in order to let them know what is the best approach for some kind of solution, something like that. And my question is, do you have some tips, like initiatives that I can put in our communities? Because I think today, you know, everything is online, and most of conference is online, and I don't know if you have some tips about that, because I'm focused on it. I'm trying to find out a way to spread some kind of knowledge sharing and knowledge to learn more and more and more, just like that.
Right.
I don't know if
So basically, you know, Garrett, so I mean, you also probably have this problem in Azure, right? So you're a small company, and like his team is a small team, and you have to reach so many communities, right? So what do you do to reach so many people at the same time?
So what we usually do is we make use of Fuji to do that. So you can use it too, right? So it's not really there's no rule that you can't pitch stuff from your company at Fuji. It's okay to do that. So we are open for that. You can also become a sponsor of Fuji. That doesn't mean you have to pay for it. So just you could be a part of the board meeting, for example. So that means people will see that you are involved there in the community. I agree that it's hard these times because of all the online things going on. It's hard to reach out to people. You can create content like webinars. That's what we also do. Videos or blog series, blog posts. That's mainly the stuff that we are doing. Everything apart from that is content creation. I mean, what would you like to do? You can do blog posts, videos, and webinars. This is more or less it. And you can, no, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's
and this
yeah,
is
basically you do writing, right? That's blog posts and articles, right? Or you do audio, right? Podcasts, for example.
Podcasts
or you do videos and presentations. That's webinars, presentations, YouTube videos, right? So yeah, so I mean, it doesn't change much, right? So those are the mediums, right?
That's and it will stay even if they're in-person events again, it will be the same. So you will do the same, continuing doing webinars and these kind of things. The problem is you don't get really a lot of feedback by that, because you can track people that approach the websites, and so you can see, okay, we had such and such hits on the website, but you don't really get leads, for example, for marketing, right? There's no way to get that. So that means if you are, the best way still is going to in-person events, meet people. For example, what I do when I go to a conference, I usually don't go there just for my session and go away. Usually I go there one day before. If possible, I stay the whole conference, even if I don't go to the sessions, but just being present at the conference, talking to the organizers, talking to people. And this really helps, because if people know you and they know how to approach you, then it's much easier. So, and that you need to get accepted in the community, which sounds a little bit stupid, but that's how it works. I mean, you can't really expect people to come to you or follow you if you don't approach them. You have to be present, go there, talk to them, like today, right? So we now talk. Now I know you. I saw you here. Next time we will meet at a conference, we can talk in person. And so this is how it works. This is networking. That's the whole thing.
It's a component of trust, right?
Sure.
And one thing we had this nice track on TDC yesterday. They was talking about leadership, right? And there's a lot of questions about leadership also in the career track. And and to be a leader requires level of trust, right?
Oh yeah.
And so the more and there's no way to trust a person that you don't know. Right? You can't trust a person that you've never seen, that you're never talking to. So the more that you put yourself out there, the more people that you meet, the more people that you talk to, then the more you can build this trust.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, that sounds stupid, but it's like going the extra mile. Like I went here to Brazil to present in person. I could have done it.
It's a little bit more than a mile, right?
Yes, I could have done it virtually. So you offered me you can stay at home and do it from there.
Right.
But it's not the same. Right. So I decided to take the 11.5-hour flight to Sao Paulo and another one here, just to be here and meet the people, talk to them. And this is just this evening, right? We decided when we went out this afternoon that we can do the session this evening. And this is something you can't plan. This just happens. It happens when you talk to people. Bruno came up with the idea, oh, we can do this little recording this evening. Yeah, why not? Just let's do it. And this is how I do it. So, but I think this is the way it works. So just be there, just be present, talk to the people. Make yourself known in the community, which is not that hard. And then because all of the people are just great. I mean, the Java community is just the best community I know.
Well, so that is a very, very good, interesting point, right? So, you come out here and you're talking to people and you're putting yourself out there. But when you come and you arrive in a conference, how do you do it, right? Just say hello to everyone. I mean, do you put yourself, because we're, I think it's normal for us, right, to be afraid of talking, to be like a little shy, right? So are you shy, or are you just kind of just arrive at the conference saying hello to everyone? How do you do it?
It depends. So I'm usually quite open to everyone because I really like to meet people, and I love to travel. It just opens your mind and you understand other cultures, and then it also helps you to understand your own culture because you see it sometimes from a different point of view.
Okay, but let me ask one thing here. I know that you like to meet, but when you you get inside an airplane and you sit down by some person, you say hello?
No.
No, right, yeah.
No,
This
I'm
is-
more shy.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's the point, right? That's the thing that's the thing, right? So if you get my wife, for example, right? My wife, if she sits by you, I mean, if she'll sit in that chair right there,
Yeah.
she would say, "Hey, hello," and she would start talking to you, right?
Okay.
And so you're shy, right? And but when you get at your conference, what do you change something in your mind and say, I'm here for those people, so I'm not gonna be shy, or what happens?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that depends on the conference, really. And I prefer going to community-driven conferences because to me they feel different. So, for example, I just take an example is Java one, or it's now Oracle Open World. If I go to that conference, this is the business conference. It's created to make money, and you can feel that and you can see that. I really don't like this kind of conferences. And then you have, for example, TDC here in Brazil, or we have Geekon, and this is a conference in Poland, or we have J Prime in Bulgaria, J Focus in Stockholm. The conferences there where you feel the community. That means you approach the place and people, and it's really interesting. It's the same it was here. Just I arrived with you on Monday evening,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
We went in and there was Joanna and she said, "Oh, there's Garrett, I saw him." So it's like, yes, you just feel welcome.
Right.
And
Yes.
that makes me, it just opens your heart and then everything's good. So and then I can start talking. If I just approach a conference and then you are just nobody, you get your badge and say, okay, go there, okay. Then I first have to look for people to get a starter. But if it's coming from the other side, then it's really easy.
It's easier, right?
Yeah, it's much easier. And this is on community conferences, they have this special feeling. So you go there, and it was the same at Geekon. I arrived at the conference, I took my badge, and she said, "Hey, you're Garrett. Yes, I saw you." Oh, cool. You feel very welcome. That makes it a lot easier. So it's yeah.
So here is his trick, right? From what he's telling me, let me tell you his trick, because that's the same trick that I use, right? We go to conferences as speakers, because once you're a speaker, you are known, right?
Yeah.
People know you, they watch your talk, and it's easier for them. That's honestly, guys, right? So the reason why, the reason, even if you're shy, like I'm very shy, he just proved that he's shy too, right? And so basically, if you put yourself out there, if you do videos, if you do webinars, if you talk with community leaders, if you participate in music groups, what happens is that people get to know you. So then you walk into a conference and you don't have a lot of courage to talk to people, but they talk to you because they know you, right? So that is a good trick to apply, right?
Well,
yes, that's exactly what you do. I know.
Yeah, but even if not, so for example, at J Prime in Bulgaria last week, it was they make it quite nice, because they don't really separate speakers from attendees, which is a good thing to do. And for example, you have lunch, and they just have a limited amount of tables.
Right.
So you just sit down somewhere and talk to people, because these are the people that are there, attendees, and I don't care. I mean, this is just because they are all part of the community. Makes you feel good. And they might not know you, and it doesn't really matter. But you can really have good conversations. And the good thing is, after that lunch, if you see them, you say, "Hey, hi," because so you just it's networking. It's very simple in principle.
Yeah, so basically it is hard, guys. It is hard to say hello but when you come to a conference, realize that everyone there has the same problem, right? So it's very common that people in the conference, they're also shy. They also don't know how to say things. So if you just smile and say, "Hey, hello, can I sit here? Are you that's the best question you can ask, right? Are you liking the conference, right?"
Yes. Yeah, you can talk about the conference.
You can say, "Are you liking the conference?" Right? Another trick that I use a lot of times is that you see something in their shirt, right? So, "Hey, that's a nice shirt from a zoo," right? And then you start a conversation, right? So that's so small things. If it starts, things can move a lot easier, a lot faster, right? So that when you're a speaker, it's sometimes easier because people are going to talk to you. But even if you're not, right, it's not a problem. If you start, because everyone has this problem, right? So for example, let me tell you a story. I'm also like this. I have a hard problem saying hello to people in the airplane, right? But I force myself every time I see in the airplane, I say, hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon. And it's funny because you know where the people are going, right? Because you're on the plane and it's going to a place, right? So I say, oh, are you going to Florianopolis, right? Yeah, of course I'm going to Florianopolis. What do you think, right? And so
just an easy start, right?
It's just an easy start, right? And so I just did that. I was coming here to Florianopolis, right? And I sit down and I say, hey, hello. There's two ladies sitting there. I say, hey, hello, are you going to Florianopolis? And then one of the ladies said, are you Bruno from TDC?
Oh, come on.
Yes. And then
Famous.
and then I said, yes, I mean, yeah, that's me. And she said, oh, the voice exactly like in the video. And then we had an awesome conversation, right?
Yeah.
And then she started talking about all kinds of things. And then she asked about the metaverse, and we started talking about the metaverse. And then they're both friends, and so they went to sleep in the middle of the flight. And so I said, oh, there was a great conversation about the metaverse. So I got my computer and I typed in an article, right? And I post an article about the metaverse from the conversation we had there, right? So sometimes just by doing, I could just have come there, sat down without saying anything, right? And she's never gonna know who I was, right? But notice one interesting thing. She would never know who I was, right? If I didn't say anything, right? She would not recognize my voice. She would not know, right? And it would be all good, no problem. We would fly. Maybe they'll talk among themselves. She'll fly. But then the next day, she would arrive at the TDC and see me on stage.
This guy was sitting next to me.
And she would say, this guy was sitting next to me and he is a bore, right? He never said hello, right? He's not a nice guy, right? So that's one thing I keep telling people, guys, the conference doesn't start at the entrance. It starts way before, right? So, I've seen, there's one time, right, that, I had this, I was in a big conference, right? And I was in the hotel. And so this guy comes in and he started yelling at the person it's not the hotel, it's the airport. So the airport, there's this guy yelling at the attendant in the airport, right? So he was complaining and all that, blah, 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 blah. And then he leaves and he gets, I just saw him right there in the airport. I was waiting for my car and just saw this guy yelling. And then next day I'm in the conference, right? And so someone says, hey, Bruno, let me introduce you to so-and-so, right? Okay. And so that was the speaker, right? And then he was all nice and always smiles and everything, like, yeah, fake guy, right? Like, when there is someone that you think is important, you treat well, right? But when guys, that's very important. It's important that you treat people well all the time.
But I have to interrupt you because when you said the story about the plane, so I told you I'm not the guy that say, hey, hello, but I like to get in touch with the people next to me. Mm-hmm. So what I do is always I try to be polite and help them if they have a problem, and then so we get in touch, right? So because when I went here, the guy beside me, he was sleeping all the time. He put this jacket over his head and and then at one point he had to step out and he need to put the table back into the seat. Mm-hmm. And he was not able to do that. So I just did it for him. And then he just smiled and so we started talking. So I try to get in touch, but I just can't do it by hello. How are you doing? So, but I totally agree what you said. It's and we have a saying in German. It's you only meet wait, just let me try to translate it right. You always meet twice in life. Mm-hmm. That means you always have to be polite, make a good impact on the people around you, because you never know, right? Yeah, it's exactly what you said.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So Bruno says, I'm shy, and I think that you can work on it too, right? Traveling, doing meetings, practice sports, right? When I travel, I do switch some button to say to myself, you have to talk to at least one person. Yeah, at least one unknown person. That's right. So I had this interesting story about, look, I'm normally very shy, but sometimes when I'm not, things just happen, right? So I think that's amazing, right? So that's that's like a positive feedback loop, right? And so it becomes easier and easier and easier. So I had one time I was I was really late, really late. I got some traffic in going to the airport, and I got late. I was so late that I'm starting thinking about, man, there's no way I'm gonna be able to check in my baggage, right? So I opened my luggage in the car and I start throwing things out, right? This can go in the airplane, this can go in the airplane, because if I get there, there's gonna be a problem. And so I got the airport, I run. There's no one to count anymore. Oh. So I'm glad. I'm very happy that I went straight to the gate, and I'm running the airport like crazy. And so I arrived at the gate, and I think I arrived like 20 minutes before the gate or something like this. And the paper said, the gate's the door's gonna close 15 minutes before the flight, right? And I'm like, oh man, I'm almost not gonna make it. So I get there, the lady says, oh, the doors closed 30 minutes before. I said, no, it says 15, right? And so I got in, man. I was all sweaty and everything. So I sit down in my chair, and then the guy on my side, he says, calm down, man, you're here already, right? Because I was like, I said, you made it, we're gonna do all that. And so we start talking, right? And so it was this guy and his wife, and they're coming back from Brazil to I don't remember, I was going to somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where the flight was going, but they're coming back to Europe, right? And so we start talking about, and then he tells me that he works with events. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? So what kind of events do you do? And so he says that he does technical events, right? And then he has these events that he's responsible to do in Europe, and he needs speakers. I'm like, yeah, I can come. and so what happens that next year, right? I spoke at that conference, right, in Amsterdam, and it was awesome conference there. And I met the guy in the plane, right?
That's crazy story.
Yeah, man. And probably if I had just arrived on time, thing like this, maybe I wouldn't have said anything, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, right.
Because he was with his girlfriend, right? So maybe he would not even pay attention to me. I don't know. So and sometimes I think the guy in front of yourself is just waiting for one hello. Yes, that's right. Oh, a lot of times he's also waiting for someone to say hello.
I mean, what I also do is to what helps is I try to help the other people, right? So, for example, if you go to a conference, then usually the conference organizers, they like you to talk about the conference, of course. And if you like a conference, tell everybody.
Tell everybody, yes.
Just Twitter about it or whatever. Just let others know that this is a great conference. So it doesn't hurt you and it helps others, right? Which is just, I think it's just a nice way to say thank you. Because, I mean, getting a session at a conference where, for example, sometimes they have 400 proposals and just 10 sessions. And if you get one of those 10, you're a lucky guy. So, and then if you go to the conference, they also treat you good because you're the speaker, and sometimes you get a speaker gift or a speaker dinner or whatever. So saying some nice words about the conference just helps, and it's a nice way to say thank you.
Right? So let me tell you this, right? So the guys here in my team are doing the right thing here. So here's what Nikita already did, right? He sent the DevConf, many thanks to Bruno, so he put out our names here, right? Yeah. And so when I cannot go to Brazil, Bruno and friends bring the best info from the DevConf. So yeah, so that's very good, Nikita, right? Exactly so people from the DevConf are gonna see it, right, and gonna enjoy it. So thanks a lot. So actually, I see that Nikita put a picture here. So how about we are about 1 hour into this here already, right? So how about we stop for a minute, get everyone here together and take a picture, right? So anyone, if you wanna show up in the picture, if you wanna turn your video on, I see here. Let me just kind of stop, remove spotlight here. So let's put everyone here. Come on. So if you guys want to put your video on, Cassio, Rodrigo, Tony, right? Armanda, if you guys want to put your video on, so you can just take a picture of everyone here.
Took a selfie.
Yeah, let's take a selfie. So anyone who wants to turn your video on so you can take a picture? Come on, Tony. Come on, Rodrigo, Cassio, Armanda. Picture time? No picture time?
Yeah, shy.
You're shy. No cam, says Rodrigo. No problem.
My beer is not good enough like Nikita beer.
That's okay. That's okay. So I'm just gonna take a picture. Last chance, right? Last chance. If anyone wants to take a look. All right. So I'm gonna take a picture right now. And all right. So okay, I'm ready to take the picture. So everyone look at the camera and smile. All right. Okay. Good. Got a picture there. That's awesome. All right. So there's one more topic here that I think is very important, Garrett, for just to discuss.
Mhm.
That is open source, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, we didn't talk about open source yet, and I think that's something that I think everyone here wants to, you know, it's interested in that somehow. So how did you get started with open source, and do you think the open source is important for developers?
Oh yes. For me, it's I can't really imagine how it would be without open source. Just if you just see it as the opportunity to have the opportunity to take a look at the code. That's the most awesome thing, because if you just remember the days where everything was closed source and you have a problem and you have no idea, you try to you create an issue and they never come back to you.
Mhm.
So you just got stuck with the problem. But these days, if you have an open source stuff, you can just take a look at the code. You can even learn from the code. You can understand the code. You can find the problem. You can help the developers to fix the problem.
Mhm.
Right. So this alone it's worth it.
Mhm.
But if you participate in stuff like participate in projects or you have your own, right? It's even better. So and I think it makes you a better programmer.
Mhm.
So for me, it started when I started with coding, and it's a longer story, but I was sitting at home watching Apollo 13, the movie.
Okay.
And there was this, they have this Apollo spaceship, and there is a digital clock in that,
Mhm.
in the spaceship. So, and I saw that, and I was like, wow, that would be great to have this one on my computer. So I took a screenshot, and I created a Swing component from that in Java. And I never did that before, so I really learned to do that by doing it with this thing. And once I finished that, I thought, wow, that's cool. That was not that hard. Let's try something different. So this is what I always do. I challenge myself. So I see something and I say, oh, can I do that? Let's give it a try. So I created this gauge, right, which is like a circular scale where you have a needle and then it rotates. So
Mhm. Right.
like in a car,
Mhm.
like an RPM or something like that. So I did this thing and coded it, and I liked it. And then I put it on the blog of our user group at that time.
Mhm.
And then there is a library in Swing, which is quite famous. It's called JFreeChart.
Mhm.
And the guy who did it, he just saw the blog post. He contacted me and asked me if he can add it to the library. And I was like, what? Oh my God, that was, I couldn't believe it. I was really like, wow. And he gave me a hint. He said, just make sure this stuff is scalable.
Mhm.
Oh, scalable. Okay, what's that? So that means if you change the size of the component, it should size, right? So
Mhm.
I had to redo it and make it resizable and all that. So lesson learned. Components have to be scalable. And so it became part of that. Then another guy approached me and said, well, you know, maybe you should do more of that. So I thought, what do you think? Yeah, just create more of these different gauges, right? So okay, yeah, I can do that. Create a library. You mentioned that in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So I did that. And it was called Steel Series. And it became that famous at that time that I remember once I was at Java 1, I saw in every third presentation, they used my gauges to show something. And I was sitting in that presentation and saw my stuff. I was, well, this is from me. I did that. So that's how it started. And then I created library after library. It's mainly all about custom controls, UI controls. And the great thing is that people use it. They come up with ideas. They find bugs in your code. You can fix it, or sometimes either they fix it for you. That means, first of all, they point you to a problem that you introduced in your code, which is great because you can learn something. Say, oh yeah, I made a mistake. Then if they fix it for you, you can see how they fixed it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but then you can make it better. So you can fix it for them. They come up with ideas. So they say, this would be great to have this thing in that library. So either you create it or they create it and create a pull request, right? So there's, for example, I don't know if you know him, Jose Pereira. He's from Spain. He's also Java champion, working for Gluon. And this guy, he found my library and he liked it and he forked it and created a component that he created from my components. And then he just sent it to me and said, look what I did with your stuff. And I tweaked it a little bit and look what I did. And I was like, well, this is great. And then he said, can you add it to your library? And I said, well, no, not I should add it, you should add it, right? So I told him he should create a pull request and I will give him the honor for that because he did it.
Right.
And so he did that. And so then we meet at one point, we met at a conference, and that was the first time he went to a conference, was DevOps Belgium. And I introduced him to other people. And now in the meantime, he's a Java champion and he's working for Gluon and on JavaFX stuff. So this is how it can work with doing open source, right? It's just because I created the library, this guy picked it up, he used it, and he get into it, and then I introduced him to other people, and so he get part of the community. So that to me, it's really like so open source and the community thing is like this. It's like it belongs together. So because I mean, most of the people in the Java community do some open source stuff, and others are involved in that. So they are not only know each other from conferences, but sometimes also from projects they are working on. And even if they are in different countries, it's another thing, right? So I can work on something on open source in Germany. You can work on the same thing from Brazil, someone else from the US and wherever. And this is just amazing. I think I use open source wherever I can. So if it's somehow possible, because all the closed source stuff is sometimes it's okay. So I don't want to have macOS as open source, because if everybody can work on that, I'm not sure then they will lose their benefit, right? So some software has to be closed source. I'm totally with that. But if it's possible, for example, for the API that I created, I started it as a closed source stuff. Then I open sourced things from the library. Now the library, the API itself is open source. And even then I extracted parts of that where I saw I used that all over the place and created another library that you can now use for other projects. Because I have, for example, stuff like XAMWare versioning, which is really, it's a pain in the ass. And once I figured out how to do that, I thought it's too bad that this is now part of this API, because this could be something standalone that people can use. So I created a library called JDK Tools, which just contains stuff like XAMWare versioning and all these different archive types that you have, and all things related to JDK stuff. So, and this is just a very small library, but everybody can use it. And I think this is, for me, it just makes sense, open source. The whole idea is just great.
Awesome. Okay, so come on, guys. We have just a few more minutes here because we're an hour and a half already talking here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's a pretty.
Hey, Bruno. Hey, Bruno.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruno.
Go ahead.
Looks like Fernando Andraus on a chat on YouTube channel. So
Okay.
YouTube channel send us the message that he follow you, sees your did the first JavaFX library, so he's following your sister.
Oh,
And Marcos Ferreira said that it is true. I think that it's talking about the behavior of the speakers behind before the talks, and so that is it's true. He also have shine when there are in the he has a speaker as well, so he shine as well. So it's something that
shy, yeah.
everyone needs to handle it. So
Maybe
I'm
this
doing
is
this
the way
right
to
now.
do it.
Right. Actually, that's an interesting point. So who was the last guy that mentioned about shine?
Marcos Ferreira.
So Marcos, that is a very, very good point, right? So, you know, one interesting thing, actually, on my book, the little book of speaking talents, I talk about the advantage of being shy, right? So no, so because there's a little bit of an advantage here, because when you're shy, right, usually you're able, you prefer to listen
Yeah.
than to speak,
Yeah.
right? And because you prefer to listen than to speak, what happens is that you become a better speaker because you listen first, right? You pay attention to what people are talking about. You see what problems they have, right? So I do think that if you're someone shy, you can actually use that to your favor, right? So you just ask questions and let other people talk, right? And that's going to be a lot easier for you. And you're gonna, you're gonna be able to understand what a lot of people want. You understand what they're looking for, and you're gonna be a much better speaker.
And I think you really have a good point here, which is, and I tell that a lot to other people, is listening is so important.
Right.
It's one of the most important things. It's listen to others, and before there are some people that just jump into the room and hey, here I am, and then just start talking, and you have no chance to interrupt, right? So, and I agree, if you're a little bit more shy, so I'm usually go into a room and then take a look and listen to conversations, and I don't really offer myself to everyone at once. So I just really stay back and listen to get an idea of the situation, of what are people talking about, and then at some point you can start adding stuff to the conversation. So but listening is one of the key parts of all of it. So I mean, you really should listen to what people say, even if you think it's not interesting for you. You will be really surprised how many things will come back in the future that you just, if you listen to it, you say, you said that, right? I remember. And then you can combine things. It's really important, especially if you this is
Marx,
yeah. So you said you're also now a developer advocate. So listening to people is 80% of the job, because they will tell you stuff, especially in situations after the conference, or if you meet them just for something else, you talk about things, and this is the situations where you really have to listen to them, because they will tell you some stuff and that might come back in the future and might be very important for your job, for the others. Even if you would like to help them, you need this kind of information. So listening is really a key part of it. I'm pretty sure.
So Nikita says you can build a lot from your weakness, right? I post about everything hard in my open source journey. Yes, being vulnerable, right? It's a great way, right, to help others too, right? So that's great.
Yeah.
And the thing you're saying there, and about listening, right? I think listening is so important. Actually, we do talk about the listening is the most important skill for a good speaker, right? Because you have to listen to people. And I was watching a video the other day, and the philosopher on the video, he was saying that if you're having a conversation with someone, right, and you're thinking the conversation is dull, you're probably not listening well, yeah. Right? Because he said, people are so interesting, right? They have all kinds of interesting stories. They have all kinds of interesting situations, and people are everyone is so different, right? So then every time you listen to other people, it's going to be amazing, right? You're going to have an amazing conversation. So
And you can learn, right? So you can always learn from others if you just listen
Yes,
to them.
right.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be technically. It can be whatever, right?
Whatever,
it can be
yeah.
diabetes, right? So
it can be, yeah, we had such a great conversation about diabetes earlier today, right? Because his son is diabetic, my wife's diabetic, so we're discussing things. So yeah, there's all kinds of things we can have a great conversation. And there's one thing that I like to point out for people, right? That most people, the way that most people listen is that they're not actually listening. They're thinking about how they're going to respond, right? They're there, and instead of listening to the person, they're just trying, oh, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, I'm going to say this, and then you're not listening, right? So be more open, right? So really listen to people, and then participate in the conversation, not because you're thinking about what you're going to say, but because you're really interested in what people have to say.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes it's even better to wait before you say something, because sometimes you never know where the whole discussion will go to. So if you first listen, and sometimes you don't even have to say something, right?
Right.
Because it's really, listening is a very important part of it.
Well, there's a story. I don't know all the details, but there's a story from Nelson Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela is arguably one of the most important leaders in the history, right? So and he learned how to be a leader from his father, right? So Nelson Mandela did say that he would see his father. His father was a tribe chief, right? So he would sit down in a big circle with all the other chiefs, right? And so and his father was always the last one to speak, right? He would just wait and he would listen to everyone, right? And then think about it and ponder what's going on. And he will only speak after he listened to everyone, right? And that there's a lot of advantage doing this, right? First of all, if you're listening to everyone, then your opinion is going to be better, right?
Sure.
Because you know what other people are paying attention, right? But interesting enough, the other people's idea is going to be better, right? Because if you're the boss and you walk in the room and say, I think we should do this,
that's
it. Then no one else has any ideas, right? So if you listen first, right, you hear what everyone has to say, then you might say, hey, you know what? Actually, what this guy want to do is a lot better than what I was thinking, right? And so that's a lot of advantage of listening.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree to that. And it's like you said. I mean, if you have a boss like that, like you mentioned, right, that steps into the room and said, "I have an idea. Let's do this. What do you think?" Nobody think about that.
Yeah.
So everyone say, "Yes, good idea, great." But if you have someone that says, "We have this problem. Has someone any ideas?" That's the way to go.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Exactly. Okay, guys, we have our last questions here. So last chance. Tony, do you have any questions? Nikita, Rodrigo, Casio, Marlon. So Marlon just showed up here. Hey, Marlon, how you doing? So, and if you're watching us on YouTube, if you wanna ask any questions, it's really a big honor to have Garrett here. Garrett's a good friend. We're actually talking about we saw each other after 2 years, right? We saw each other at Dev Nexus in Atlanta, right? And we were talking about, and he's like, hey, Bruno, how can I come to Brazil? I said, well, we have TDC coming up. And he's like, oh, that's cool. So is there a call for paper? I said, well, the call for paper's closed tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, it closed tomorrow. So I got to do something about it, right? And so he did send a talk. He's here. He traveled 11 hours, 11 hours to Sao Paulo. So a couple more hours to get here. And so it's all good. So guys, last chance for you to ask questions here to Garrett.
So I have one more.
Okay.
Hey, Garrett,
just one second, Max. So I see Andre just showing up. Hey, Andre, good to have you here. Come on, go ahead, Max.
That's okay. If someone has another question, I'm glad to everyone to ask him. But my question is a little bit, how do you deal with your time? Because you need to divide your time with your family, with your personal things, and the community things. How do you deal with those things? It's a little interesting to know about.
That's a good question. So I'm lucky my wife is not here.
Oh,
So yeah, it's this year is crazy. I mean, I'm on the road till we met in Atlanta. So I think till March, I was at home maybe for 2 weeks, and the rest was just on the road. And I have to say, it's really enough. The next week I will be again on the road, but then it's more or less done. And that's part of the job. I mean, it's always in spring and in autumn. It's conference season, and the last 2 years have been great because I was at home all the time, and it was a little bit shocking this year when suddenly I was just gone.
So did your wife say, "Come on, you got to travel now," right? So it's got to a point where she said, "My wife did," right?
Oh, really?
You know, my wife one day, said, "Come on. Don't you have any conference to go, right? You know, go travel a little bit, right?"
Oh, my wife is saying the same thing for me.
I mean, it's tough. I have 2 kids, so it's really. I mean, they are old enough, but still, it doesn't really feel good all the time. And the problem is, you never know how many sessions you really got accepted. So I can't really plan that. So I just proposed something to conferences, and this year was crazy because nearly everything was accepted. So I really had problems traveling. I had conferences where I went to, on Monday, I went to Texas, and on Wednesday, I went from Texas to Poland, and then on Friday back home, and then on Monday again, I went to the US. So it was really crazy back and forth. It's hard. So
that's an interesting point right now, right? So I know conferences are coming back, right? And not every speaker is willing to travel right now.
Yeah, that's
right.
True.
You know, we saw that actually we had here in TDC, we actually had speakers that live here in Florianopolis, and they gave the talk remotely, virtually,
wow.
because they're not ready to come and get out and talk with people and things like that. So that's a good opportunity if you wanna be a speaker at conference, right? So be the person willing to travel. That could be interesting thing.
I mean, it was for me the first conference after the pandemic was JavaLand in Germany, and it felt a little bit strange, to be honest. At that point, we had still the mask mandate in Germany, so I went to the conference. We have to wear masks everywhere. It was strange. But to be honest, the feeling meeting people in person just was overwhelming. I was like, wow, I really love that a lot. So, and at that point, I stopped doing online. After that conference, I didn't do any online conference anymore because it was just too good.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to get that done. Some seasons are better, some are worse. So this year was worse. So I really have to travel a lot. But yeah.
Right, but one thing we gotta say is that you know, you, Garrett, you're able to travel a lot, right? Because you are an evangelist for a company that wants you to go to all these conferences, right? But the reality, guys, for most of us that we're not developed advocates, is that you know, you sometimes have to choose which are the best conferences that you can actually come. You know, so you can always look for conferences that are near your city that you can travel. So, for example, last week. I traveled to a conference that was, you know, just get a car and it's 1 hour away from my house, right? So, you know, so you can choose the conferences, and then sometimes you can get someplace. You know, one interesting thing that I like to say, there are conferences that are smaller conferences. You know, they don't attract the big speakers, so they actually are willing to, you know, to pay for your travel, for example, right? So you could come, and that's a great opportunity for you to, you know, for you to do some traveling. We have in SouJava several years ago. We don't do this anymore, but we could restart. If any one of you want to do that, we could restart. But we had this project that was to give talks at universities, right?
Oh yeah,
so,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So basically, what we'd do is that we would put available. and say, look, if there's any university that wants us to come, all we need is the travel expenses, right?
Yeah.
Because so we can go to any university, right? So we had several universities that would call us and say, oh yeah, we need a speaker here to talk to our students, right? So they would pay, travel and hotels, right? And then that allows us to travel to lots of different places, right? So just some of ideas that probably you're not going to be able to do what Garrett just did, right? Travel back and forth, because unless your company wants you to do that, right? But a lot of times you can get conferences and you can get other ways for you to participate too.
I mean, I was in that place too, right? So I didn't start as an evangelist or developer advocate from the beginning. So when I started traveling to conferences, it was really on my own money. So I really had to make a wise choice. So which conferences I can go to. So lucky me that DevOps Belgium is just 3 hours by car.
Right.
That was the conference because it's the biggest one in Europe. So it was for me the only one in the year I went to, and I had to pay for the hotel and all that, which is not cheap. So I can really remember how it was, and I totally agree. It's not easy if you don't have a company that pays for it. It's tough. And then virtual conferences make sense because at least you can get the content. But yeah, it's like you said, there are smaller conferences that might not attract the big speakers, but it's not that important. It doesn't mean that are bad speakers, right?
No,
so
yeah.
So you can get really good content or great content at small conferences. Sometimes it even feels better because it's smaller.
Exactly. And then the cool thing is that a lot of times, I do this all the time with, especially with universities, for example, the university will bring like 2 or 3 speakers, and then basically you get that you're a royalty, right?
Yeah.
They go pick you up in the airport, and you get to meet the other speakers. Sometimes the other speakers is like someone that you love to meet, right? And then actually, there was one conference in a city called Pato Branco. It's a city that's very hard to get to because there's no airport there.
Okay.
So you have to travel to another city and then get a car, and it's like very complicated to get there. But I did go there, and then the other speaker that was there with me is a guy that's like, he's very famous because he used to write this math columns in magazines, right? And so when I was younger, I would read every single column of him. I had his book and all that. And so then I got to the city and he's there, like, man, right? So I'm like, woo, right? And then so it's good, right? So a lot of times you actually had this chance, and then you go out for dinner with just a small group of people. So yeah, man, I would love to get, and so Nikita says I would love to speak to students about open source, right? So yeah, Nikita, that's a great thing to do.
Absolutely.
And so helping people is very important for me too, says Max. That's great. Yes. All right, guys. So
one more question, or
go ahead,
don't have time.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Bruno. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure about Garrett, but usually we try to be here as long as there's questions, right? But the only thing is that we need to go out for dinner at some point, right? So, but that's okay. So far, right? After all, right, Garrett, all we ate was just a little bit of meat and lunch, right? It's just like this big plate, right? This big plate of meat, right? Okay, so go ahead, Bruno.
I don't think it is the right time to do this question, because we are almost in the end of this talking, but well, I will do it. I would like to know by Garrett, because I think it's really cool when I see a name, and below that name, I read Java Champion. I think it's really cool, and I don't know if I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that it is a title gave by the community. I don't know if I am right, but since it is given by the community, what it takes to get this title, how long it takes. And I know that I can make some research in Google, in the internet, but I like to hear from people who got it, what it took to that people to get this title,
Okay, good question. So Bruno, that's a great question, but let me tell you one interesting thing that that maybe it's not public knowledge right now. So Oracle changed the Java Champions page, right? Not, I don't know exactly what happened, right? But they changed. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Java Champions page to get, the questions on how to be a Java champion, and they're not in the website anymore, right? So I searched it everywhere.
Oh.
And so the page that you used to list all the questions, it doesn't exist anymore. So we got to fix that. Right.
Oh, yeah,
because so that's a very good question, Bruno, because you could not research right at this moment right now. You cannot research because it's not available, right? So so that's a good question. Now, the one thing I want to correct you, Bruno, when you say, well, not correct, but just kind of adjust a little bit. When you say it's a title given by the community, yes, it is a title given by the community. So because but which community you're talking about, right? So Java champions choose other Java champions, right? So basically, for you to become a Java champion, you have to be suggested by a Java champion and voted by the Java champions, right? So the Java champions choose other Java champions. So that's the one thing I want to. So Garrett, how long have you been a Java champion?
2013, I think.
2013. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was, and it was interesting because I was at a GeekCon in Poland at the conference, and I had a really great time with some guys from the Netherlands, and I didn't really know that they suggested me to become a Java champion. That's sometimes people know it, sometimes not. It depends, but I didn't know.
Right.
So I was there, we had a lot of fun, and then that was maybe around June, and then in October, the one guy just pinged me and said, don't be afraid, but you might get a mail tomorrow that you become a Java champion. So I was really like, why? And then he was like, yeah, I suggested you, and and people voted for you, and so you will become a Java champion. And I didn't know that. So it's and what it needed to do, there are different things that are needed. So it doesn't have to fulfill all of this stuff. But for example, if you are, first of all, being a Java champion doesn't mean you know everything about Java, right? So because
it definitely doesn't mean that, right?
Because this is sometimes what people think. It's not. It's more about the community. So it's spreading the word about Java, being part of the community, pushing things forward. And that could be something like being a Java user group leader, speaking at conferences, writing books, having a blog that helps people, doing webinars or videos or stuff like that, tutorials, writing at magazines, all the stuff that helps spreading the word about Java, right? Do you find it?
So I do have the Java champion nomination form with me, right?
Okay.
So we can actually go over the exact question. This is not public, right? So you can't find that, right?
Yeah.
But we can go over.
Yeah, this 5 questions or something.
Yes, right. So let me just kind of scroll down a little bit here. Okay, so here are the five things about the Java champion. So one thing, I was one of the founding members of the Java champion program, right? So that's so the very first group of Java champions, I was one of them, and basically all the rules to choose a Java champion were created by this group in the very beginning, right? So basically the Java champions are the ones that decide who are the next Java champions, right? So here are the here are the 5. There are questions really, right? So the 5 categories, right? The 5 categories that you have to kind of fulfill to be a Java champion. So first of all, Java champions are leaders, right? So they lead projects, they lead Java related projects, they lead JUG communities, or so they're seen and respected in the community as leaders, right? Java champions are technical luminaries, right, or community builders, right? So so they are seniors. They have contributed to things, right? So they are seen also as technically capable and as I say, technical luminaries, right? And then number 3, Java champions are independent-minded and credible, right? So that means Java champions express their views. That's very important, right?
Oh, yes.
Java champions are not people that stay quiet in the corner, right? So they express their views, but at the same time, they do that, so they publish content. It doesn't matter if it's pro or against Oracle, right? That's not a problem, right? But it is an authentic, honest content, right? That they're creating, right? And Java champions are involved in some really cool application of Java technology, right? It could be something educational, could be something humanitarian, could be something that, some interesting problem solving, could be some interesting product, right? So Java champions are involved with some usage of Java, right? And important enough, right? It has to be something visible. Again, Java champions are visible people. They're not hiding under the dash, right? So if what you do is an amazing software, but it's just available inside your company, right? Then it's very hard for you to be a Java champion because no one sees that, right? So it has to be visible. So make sure your company talks about your projects, right? That's a good thing. And also Java champions are able to advocate and influence other developers, right? So the things that you do, the things you talk about, the events you participate, the technology you get involved with, the mentorship that you do. So you do help developers, to be interested in Java.
And you don't have to be all of them.
No, you don't have to be all of that. Yes, that's right.
Just, but that's, and yeah, I didn't know that when I became a Java champion because I didn't have access to that.
Right, exactly, right.
So yes. It's an honor to be a Java champion, but it's not, it's interesting because sometimes I have the impression that it's overrated by some people. It's like, wow, these Java champions, but it's just something we never asked for, right? So it was given to us, and of course I'm happy to be a Java champion, but I would do the same thing without being a Java champion. So this is to me, I like it, but it's not.
That's what makes him a Java champion. See, a Java champion is not, it's not something that you go after, right? The Java champion is a recognition for exactly what he said. I would do the same thing even if I was not a Java champion. That's why you are a Java champion, right? Because you advocate, you promote, you participate in the Java community, even if you don't get anything out of that.
Yeah, I forgot to put that question in my question because I was curious to if you had it as a goal, but now you answered it wasn't a goal. It just happened.
No. I didn't even thought about that. It was never. I never thought that I could be a Java champion. So it was never planned or something. And I think it's also something you shouldn't plan for. So if it happens, it's fine, and if not, it's also fine. I mean, it doesn't make a difference who you are or what you are doing. So it's just it's some kind of recognition that you did something for the community, and I like this point that it's being recognized as someone who did something for the community, which is nice. So
yeah. So basically that's the idea.
Thank you.
Java champion is someone that advocates, in general, it's advocates for the Java community, right? So and I think it's one very important thing is that you have to be visible, right? If you're not visible, there's no way you're going to be a Java champion, right? So that's one of the things. And so the interesting thing that we have to think about, right? So so not every Java developer that does cool things will be a Java champion because Java champions are visible. And look, we're talking about Java champions here, but lots of companies have similar programs, right? So Microsoft has the Microsoft MVPs, Oracle has the Oracle Aces, Amazon has the Amazon Heroes, and then Google has the Google Develop Advocates, right? So every company several companies have those titles, those recognitions, right? And in the end, what is similar to all of them is that those people recognize it because they are community-based external evangelists, right?
Yeah.
They're external advocates, right? So it's like, Garrett is an advocate for a zoo, right? And so, but people that participate on Fuji, right, are external advocates for a zoo, right? For a zoo's community, right? And so, so I think that yes, participate on things that you think are cool, participate on initiatives that you like, right? That improve your career, that you make a better developer, right? Participate on those things, and then some this recognition might come.
Yeah.
Right.
So it will come over time. So it's, yeah, you can't really. I know people that plan to become a Java champion, and yeah, I just can say you will never become a Java champion if you say, how can I get a Java champion? So it's nothing you aim for, really. It happens or not.
Right. And basically, there is some differences between the Java champions. There's some people that think that you should tell the person ahead of time so they can prepare for it. Some people say like, no, don't tell anything, it's a surprise, right? So the different Java champions have different views on that, right? And so that's the way it is. So some Java champions will nominate you without telling you anything about you, and then it's gonna be a surprise for you. Some other Java champions will reach out to you and say, look, I'm thinking about it. Let's let's gather all the information so you can do so. So yeah, it's not a 100% homogeneous initiative, right? Yeah.
All right. So what?
Okay,
Do we
is
have
that
more
good?
questions?
We don't have any more questions, right? So Andre, you got here. Andre Malin, you got here in the last minute. So you guys have any questions? This could be a good moment for you to ask a question. And I don't see any more questions. I think that's it for today, guys. So last chance, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I like to thank everyone here for your time, for your questions. It was a great conversation, and especially Garrett, thanks a lot for you, man, for being here.
Thanks
and
for having me.
traveling all the way here and having this nice conversation. So
anytime.
Yes, thanks to SouJava, right, the Brazilian Java User Society, that we're the channel there, we're promoting this. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, I can't say anything else than thank you. It is great to be part of that whole thing.
Okay. All right, guys.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Danke. Vielen Dank.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great